Hello and welcome to another episode of my vinyl and music collection. And if you want to check my playlist on my YouTube channel, you'll see all the episodes chronologically arranged on the playlist from 1 to 6. So this is number 7, and we're going to delve into my love-hate relationship with progressive rock. Now, I'm no lover of progressive rock. I like progressive rock, and there are some bands which I absolutely adore, and there's some of the albums and some of the bands which no, I'm no fan of. But I don't think we can start an episode of progressive rock without talking about probably the biggest, most famous progressive band of them all, and their album, and it's Pink Floyd, and the album is Dark Side of the Moon. Now this was probably, I think, their 5th album. Poor old Syd Barrett was fired in 1967, if I'm not mistaken. Poor old Syd had fallen into mental health problems brought on by excessive drug use, and but he was still Pink Floyd. He was the beating heart of Pink Floyd. After they fired Syd Barrett, they brought in Dave Gilmour, and so we had the iconic lineup of Roger Waters, David Gilmour, Nick Mason, and Richie Wright. Roger Waters has said, and I've seen the documentary when they were recording this album, they saw this fella, bald-headed fella, overweight, just standing around the studio watching, and they didn't think anything of it, and then they realized later on that it was Syd who was coming to the studio. And this album is probably in a concert album which is all about the mental health of a band, the slow degeneration of your mind and drugs. And they give Roger Waters the go-ahead to come up with this concept album, and that's Dark Side of the Moon. This is the 40th anniversary album. It came with lots of candy, which I'm really pleased about. Back isn't much similar to the front. It's got the gatefold sleeve, which is great, and it's got all the lyrics. It's got the band members, which would have been Roger Waters, Dave Gilmour, Mick Mason, and Richie Wright, and iconic songs on here. And I'll read out side 1 for you, which is Speak to Me, and that was written by Nick Mason, the drummer, and that's the opening track, and it's a brilliant track, Speak to Me. Track 2 is Breathe in the Air, which was written by Roger Waters, Dave Gilmour, and Richie Wright. On the Run, written by Gilmour and Waters. Time, which is a really iconic song, was written by all 4 members. And I think the most famous song on side 1 would have been The Great Gig in the Sky. And this will shock a lot of you, but that song was written by Richard Wright. And I don't think Richard Wright or Nick Mason have got the respect they deserve from Pink Floyd followers or even the band themselves. But they were great songwriters, world-class musicians, drummers. They were obviously Mick Mason, the drummer, and Richie Wright was the keyboard player, and they were great songwriters and musicians. The second side starts off with the all-time classic Money, and that was written by Roger Waters, and that is probably the most famous song on here. And it's got that ka-jung, 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 the noise of money falling into a till. So that's a great song, and obviously, you know, Roger Waters, he's a big not politician, but he's anti-politics, but he's always on TV, and he's a great philanthropist. Right, track 2 would have been Us and Them, another brilliant album. Now that was written by Roger Waters and Richard Wright. Any Colour You Like, again written by Gilmour, Mason and Wright. Brain Damage, great song again, that was written by Roger Waters. And the 5th song would have been called Eclipse. This album went 14 times platinum in the UK. It was #1 in the US, and it sold 45 million copies. That is just incredible, just incredible. The album which put Pink Floyd on world dominance and taking progressive rock that way. So there's my love of progressiveness. Pink Floyd. I'll just show you some of the candy which came with it. So we had a lovely big poster. Another lovely big poster which came with the album. Couple of postcards. And I hadn't realised, but I'd actually put the receipt, and I had a bargain. I didn't realise. I bought this album probably 3 years back, but I paid $14.99 for it, brand new. And I know that the big record stores were selling that album for close on £40 sterling or $50, whatever you think. Anyway, we're going to move on to my next progressive album, and I have got a huge love affair with this band, and that is Barclay James Harvest. The reason I've got a big love affair with Barclay James Harvest, I was their tour manager in Portugal circa 2010, and I hadn't heard much about them, and we booked them for this major rock and blues festival in Porto, and they were just immense. I didn't think anyone would come to see them, but 5,000 people turned up in Gaia, just on the other side of the Douro River. They sold 1,000 CDs that night. They sold T-shirts, and what a lovely bunch of guys these were. And unfortunately, Barclay James Harvest had split into 2 bands. But I certainly believe that that night we had the iconic band, which consisted of John Lees and Wooly Wolstenholme, and these were like the iconic players. Les Aldroyd, he had another Barclay James Harvest, but don't get me wrong, Les Aldroyd was a great songwriter, and he wrote one of the probably most famous songs called Rock and Roll Star. And I spent a lot of time with these guys, and this album is one of the better ones, and it consists of Polk Street Rag, Suicide, I'll talk a little bit more about that song now in a bit, Mayday, Ra, Side 2, Believe in Me, The World Goes On, and Rock and Roll Star. They actually got on to top the pops with Rock and Roll Star. The sad song was Suicide. Now, I spent a lot of time with a mellotron player called Wooly Wolstenholme in Portugal, and we were really close. And he spoke about his mental health issues, and how he'd been up and down, how record producers, managers had ripped this band off. The sad thing was, 3 months after I'd met Wooly Wolstenholme committed suicide. And it's just quite ironic really, that track 2 is a song called Suicide, and that was written by the lead guitar player John Lees, and John Lees is a great singer as well. So Barclay James Harvest, one of my favourite bands, and please check them out. There's some great songs, and they called them the poor man's Pink Floyd. They were from Manchester, and they all went to Salford University. They were all like art graduates. I think John Lees now is still a lecturer at Salford University. Anyway, Barclay James Harvest, good British progressive rock band. My next album is King Crimson. Now, King Crimson are another iconic British band, and I would say the two most famous musicians that King Crimson produced were obviously Robert Fripp, who's still playing now and classed as one of the greatest guitar players to ever picked up the guitar, and Greg Lake, who was on the first King Crimson album. Now, I only got into Robert Fripp and King Crimson after I'd been watching YouTubes of Robert Fripp with his wife Toya, and they were doing like parodies of songs which they both like, which Toya basically liked, and they were very funny. And I was watching, and you could just listen to Robert Fripp playing those guitars. So I went delving into the prog rock and into the King Crimson world, and I found this album. It's called Lizard, and again, it's got great reviews. And Robert Fripp didn't like this album originally, but now he's changed his mind, and he does like it. And again, it's got a great gatefold sleeve. It's got all the lyrics. It's got the actual personnel, and it consisted of Robert Fripp guitar, mellotron, Mel Collins flute and saxes, Gordon Haskell bass, Andy McCulloch drums, and Peter Sinfield words and pictures. The tracks in here would be Circus, Indoor Games, Happy Family, Lady of the Dancing Water, and side 2 would be Lizard, Prince Rupert Awakes, Bolero, The Peacock's Tail, The Battle of Glass Tears. And that's typical progressive titles as well, isn't it? You know, if you think of Yes and Rick Wakeman, they've got all those big classical things going on. Anyway, that's King Crimson, and I personally like King Crimson because of Robert Fripp's guitar work. Excellent album. Let's go modern progressive, and we've spoken about this band in the past. And this is Marillion. As I said, they've been classed hard rock, heavy metal, but they have their style is definitely progressive. They were big supporters of Genesis, Peter Gabriel, and this was Fugazi. This was the last of the albums which Fish recorded. And again, I love the artwork. The artwork is just absolutely brilliant. And again, it's got a great gatefold. It's got all the lyrics again on it. Some great songs on here. We've got Assassin, which is my favourite one, which was released as a single. And I've got that on 12-inch picture sleeve. I will be doing a bit on my picture sleeve soon. Punch and Judy, another brilliant song. Jigsaw, Emerald Lies. Now that's a brilliant start to any album. These are great songs. Then we got She Chameleon, Incubus. We got Punch, and Marillion. I can't say too much more about this band, and we will be talking about, and I have got a live album of the new singer. And I call him the new singer because even though he was a lot longer than Fish, to me, Fish will always be Marillion. And the lineup on this album would have been Fish and vocals, Steve Rothery, Mark Kelly, Pete Trevas, and backing vocals was Linda Pike. And this was recorded in December 1983 to 1984. And I do love a bit of Marillion. Fantastic band. We're going to delve in now to Mr. Ritchie Blackmore and his, I think this is progressive. It's very medieval. It's Ritchie Blackmore with his wife. And he's released a few of these albums now. And this one is called Nature's Light. I would definitely give Ritchie Blackmore's Night a bit of a listen to. They're slow burners, and I picked this up thinking, okay, I love Ritchie Blackmore, I love his guitar playing, but I'm gonna give this a listen to. And it starts off with quite a difficult listen to, Once Upon a December, but as each track went by, it kind of drew me in, and by halfway through the A side and definitely into the B side, I was absolutely obsessed with this album. Once again, it's a gatefold. It's got all the lyrics on it. There's a great inner liner. Blackmore's Night. And yeah, it's an absolute brilliant album. Ritchie Blackmore's wife and singer on this is Candice Knight, and she plays flute and a few other instruments. Here you can see Ritchie Blackmore playing a double neck mandolin, which is quite funny really, considering that he was one of the heaviest riff guitar players you could come across. Blackmore's Night, brilliant album. Side A would be Once Upon a December, Four Winds, Feather in the Wind, Dark Shade of Black, The Twisted Oak, Nature's Light, Day Let's Musketeer, Wish You Were Here 2021, Going to the Fair, and Second Element. I'm just going to check Wish You Were Here and see if this is the Pink Floyd album. No, it's not. The Pink Floyd song, sorry. No, it was written by his wife, Linda. Anyway, give Ritchie Blackmore's Night a little listen to. Maybe find him on YouTube. But I think well worth just to have a quick listen to. Right, I suppose I'm going to upset a few of you now. But when I've done my research on this album and this band, it's one of my favourite bands of all time. And I've classed them as blues, I've classed them as rock, I've classed them as psychedelic rock. But when you do your research, the word progressive always comes up. And we always think of progressive as British. Well, a lot of the British bands and artists were big fans of The Doors and Jim Morrison. Now these were all like very arty, art school students. Jim Morrison was a great writer. He wrote great poetry, he wrote books. Out of all my Doors albums, I would definitely say this one is as close to progressive as you can get. And it's called Strange Days. And I absolutely love The Doors. And I think I've got nearly everything that they've done. If it's on CD, if it's on music cassette, if it's an album. But the tracks in here would be Strange Days, which is so famous, it's incredible. You've Lost Little Girl, Love Me Two Times, another great classic song by the Doors, Unhappy Girl, Horse Latitudes, Moonlight Drive. Side 2, another all-time classic Doors song, People Are Strange, that's track 1. Track 2 is My Eyes Have Seen You, I Can't See Your Face in My Mind, and the last track, When the Music's Over. Again, we're talking on this album alone at least 5 classic Doors songs, and you just really can't misjudge this band as absolute iconic leaders in their field, influences of other bands. But when I did my research, I didn't know where to put the Doors, but the word progressive came along every time. So I'm putting them in the progressive genre, maybe just for this album. And the personnel would be Jim Morrison, the great Ray Manzarek on keyboards, Robbie Krieger, great guitar player, played with his fingers, very much a flamenco style player, and John Densmore. And John Densmore owns all the rights now to the Doors, so nothing can be released unless it goes past John Densmore first. Unfortunately, we've lost Jim, we've lost Ray Manzarek, and so that's very sad. I'm not sure if Robbie Krieger's died. Something tells me he has, and John Densmore is the only survivor. The Doors, Strange Days, great album, love it. Right, we're gonna delve into Roger Chapman. Again, Roger Chapman's a British singer, and he was with the great British band called Family. And Family were classed as a prog band, and Roger Chapman was known to be one of the great vocalists as well. He had a really high-pitched voice, very much a theatre showman on stage. And I've seen a few clips of Roger Chapman on YouTube, and I do like him. He's brilliant, and I've seen clips of Family. And then a few years back, I was in a second-hand record shop, and I came across this album, and it's Roger Chapman and the Shortlist live in Hamburg. And this is a great live album. And just need to say to you as well that in the coming weeks, I'm going to do a little retrospective on all my live rock albums. So that's going to be fun. Anyway, the tracks in here would be Moth to a Flame, Keep Forgetting, Midnight Child, Who Pulled the Night Down, Talking About You, which includes Going Down. Side 2, Shortlist, Can't Get In, I'm a Hoochie Coochie Man, a bit of blues, which is my all-time favourite genre. I love the blues, and fair play, he's got Hoochie Coochie Man in here. Maybe that's why I picked it up, who knows. And the last track is Let's Spend the Night Together. And the musicians would have been Roger Chapman, vocals. We'd have had Tim Hinckley on keyboards, Jeff Whiteon on guitars. Jeff Whiteon, he's quite well known. We had Mel Collins on saxophone. We just spoke about Mel Collins. Jerome Ramson on bass, Helen Hardy extra vocals, and Kathy Donahue vocals. And that's Roger Chapman live in Hamburg. A great album, check him out, and check out his band Family. Great live album, that one. And I'm going to finish with my favourite band again on the prog scene, and that is Marillion again. And this was their second album, and this would have been their most commercial album, and most of the commercial songs are in this album as well. And once again, the artwork is absolutely brilliant. Always a gate sleeve, which we love with all the lyrics. And this would have been Marillion's second album. And the tracks on here will be Pseudo Silk Kimono, which is a great song. I think the second song is probably their biggest hit ever, which really did catapult Marillion into the big time, and that was Kaylee, a great song. The third song, again, was a chart hit, which was Lavender. And you can't underestimate these songs. You can't underestimate Fish as a vocalist and the whole band together. These were, in their time, the best. Fourth track would have been Bittersweet. I love the fifth track, The Heart of Lothian. They were a Scottish band, so Lothian is where their heart is. B-side, Waterhole, Espresso Bongo. Lords of the Backstage, Blind Curve. One of my other favourite songs, Childhood's End, which I've got on single, and White Feather. Marillion, definitely progressive, definitely influenced by progressive, definitely influenced by Peter Gabriel and Genesis, but don't underestimate, they were their own guys. And that is Marillion's Misplaced Childhood. And that is a brilliant album. I hope you're all enjoying these little kind of podcasts I'm doing, and there's many more to come. I would really like it if you would like these vids, and if you subscribed. They're all on the playlist. I enjoy doing them, and it's nice to speak to you out there. And they are gaining a bit of traction now. And so over the weeks, we're gonna start delving into Celtic rock, Celtic folk. We're gonna get back down the American rock genres, British rock genres. We'll mix them up a bit. We're gonna do a little bit of thrash metal, which I do love a bit of thrash metal. And I've got so many genres which I've been into all my life, and I just don't let them disappear. They're always there, and I'll always listen to them. And one of the genres which I do adore, and that is Americana, and I've got some nice Americana albums which we will be talking about again. Anyway, guys, take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye now.